Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the hidden machinery of life. I'm talking about looking way past what the naked eye can see and zooming right into the microscopic realm that builds, sustains, and sometimes challenges absolutely everything in our macroscopic world. All right, let's just start with the number 37 trillion. It's kind of mind-boggling, right? But what actually is it? Well, that is the estimated number of specialized cells making up your body at this exact second. 37 trillion tiny living building blocks working together in perfect coordination just to keep you alive, breathing, and learning. Here's our roadmap for today's Explainer. We'll be covering 1. Seeing the invisible, 2. The architecture of cells, 3. Inside the cellular city, 4. The mighty microbes, and 5. Microbes in our world. Let's get right into it. Section 1. Seeing the invisible, the tools and the timeline. You know, for most of human history, we had absolutely no clue this microscopic world was even down there. The key to finally unlocking it? The compound microscope. This is basically our ultimate vehicle for discovery. And the really crucial thing here is that it uses more than one lens. You've got the objective lenses down near the specimen and the ocular or eyepiece lens that you actually look through. By teaming these lenses up, the compound microscope doesn't just make things look bigger. It gives us the power of resolution. It lets us see incredibly close together parts as completely separate, distinct structures. And man, that one tool just triggered an absolute avalanche of discoveries. Picture this. It's 1665, and an English scientist named Robert Hooke is looking at a super thin slice of cork. He notices these tiny, empty little compartments and calls them cells. Then, just a few years later, in 1670, Antoine van Leeuwenhoek uses a microscope to actually watch living cells swimming around in a drop of pond water. Decades go by, and the pieces finally click together. Matthias Schleiden declares cells the ultimate building blocks of plants in 1838, and Theodor Schwann figures out the exact same thing for animals in 1839. And just like that, we had this universal realization. The cell is the fundamental unit of all life. Section 2. The architecture of cells. Diversity in shape and size. Just like buildings look totally different depending on what they're built for, cells show some serious physical diversity based on their jobs. Take a unicellular organism like an amoeba, for example. This single, solitary cell is a complete powerhouse all on its own. It handles all the functions of life, feeding, movement, respiration, reproduction, totally solo. But then compare that to a multicellular plant cell. These are completely different. They're highly specialized, team-oriented units that interlock to form the structure of a leaf. They literally rely on each other for the entire organism to survive. But if we look beneath just shape and size, there's actually a massive foundational architectural divide in the cellular world. And it all comes down to how a cell stores its genetic instructions. On one hand, we have prokaryotic cells. Think bacteria. These are primitive. They completely lack a well-defined membrane-bound nucleus, meaning their genetic material is just kind of floating freely out there in the cytoplasm. On the other hand, you have eukaryotic cells, which make up all multicellular plants and animals. These guys have a well-defined membrane-bound nucleus that tightly secures their genetic material. It's almost like a highly secure vault. Section 3. Inside the cellular city, exploring the organelles. So, if we zoom in even further, you'll see a eukaryotic cell isn't just some static, boring block. It's incredibly dynamic. It's like a bustling microscopic city. Notice all those distinct little shapes embedded within that jelly-like cytoplasm? Those are the organelles. They're the living parts of the cell, each with a definite shape, structure, and a highly specific job to do. Much like a real city has a power plant, waste disposal, and a central government, the cell relies on these specialized organelles working in perfect harmony to keep the whole operation running smoothly. And right at the heart of this city's energy grid are the mitochondria. Honestly, these small rod-like structures are undeniably one of my favorite organelles. I mean, they are literally the powerhouses of the cell. Their entire job is to take the food you eat, oxidize it, and convert it into usable energy. Without these little engines firing away, the whole city just shuts down cold. But you know, every city also needs waste management, right? And sometimes it even needs emergency demolition. That is exactly where lysosomes come in. These organelles contain really powerful chemical enzymes that can digest materials. But here's the wild part. They're often called the suicide bags of the cell. If a cell gets damaged beyond repair, the lysosomes can actually burst open, releasing those enzymes to destroy the entire cell in an emergency. It's a pretty dramatic but absolutely vital sacrifice to protect the health of the overall organism. Now, while all eukaryotic cities share certain basic features, there are some major zoning differences between plants and animals. For instance, plant cells have this rigid extra outer layer called a cell wall for skeletal support, which animal cells totally lack. Plants also have chloroplasts loaded with chlorophyll so they can make their own food from sunlight. And check out the vacuole, that's the storage sac. In plant cells, it is massive and really prominent, whereas in animal cells, they're usually small and pretty scarce. So this brings up a crucial question. What actually happens when these microscopic entities interact with our macroscopic world? We've been looking at them in isolation, but these invisible structures don't just exist in a vacuum, right? They literally shape the world we walk around in. Section 4. The mighty microbes. Viruses, bacteria, and beyond. All right, this is where we get into the incredibly diverse and sometimes completely bizarre realm of microorganisms. And let's kick things off with the smallest and most mysterious of the bunch, viruses. The scale we're talking about here is just staggering. To even see a virus, like a bacteriophage or the influenza virus, you need an electron microscope that can magnify an object up to 200,000 times its original size. And what's really wild is that viruses are acellular. They don't even have a cellular structure. Outside of a host, they basically exist in this completely non-living state called a virion. They only show signs of life and start multiplying once they've successfully hijacked the cells of a living organism. But hey, let's clear something up right now. Not all microbes are just invaders out to get us. Actually, most of them are hidden helpers. Look at these wildly positive essential applications. In medicine, fungi like penicillium give us absolute wonder drugs, antibiotics that wipe out disease-causing microbes. In agriculture, you have rhizobium bacteria living right in the roots of plants, literally pulling nitrogen out of the thin air to fertilize the soil. They decompose our organic waste. And get this, there's an industrial process called biomining, where specific bacteria are used to separate metals from mineral deposits. More than 30% of the world's copper is extracted using bacteria. How amazing is that? Section 5. Microbes and our world. Food production and preservation. Let's bring this science right into your kitchen. You might not even realize it, but microbes dictate a huge chunk of the food we eat every single day. Take fermentation, for example. It's this incredible process where microbes convert sugar into acid, alcohol, or carbon dioxide. When we bake bread, it's yeast releasing carbon dioxide that gets trapped in the dough, creating those small air spaces that make the bread so light and fluffy. When we make wine, yeast is busy converting the sugar in grape juice into ethanol. And bacteria like lactobacillus, they are the exact reason we can turn milk into curd and eventually into all those amazing cheeses we love. We literally owe our culinary staples to microbes. Of course, there is a flip side to that. Microbes are also exactly what causes our food to spoil. But to fight back, human engineering relies on some really simple yet brilliant preservation techniques. Pasteurization, for instance, involves rapidly heating milk up to about 70 degrees Celsius and then cooling it instantly. This kills the microbes without ruining the flavor. Then there's canning, which uses heat for sterilization before locking the food inside an airtight container so no new microbes can sneak in. And freezing? That just relies on dropping temperatures below -18 degrees Celsius to completely hit the brakes on the growth of any microorganisms already inside the food. This really just brilliantly illustrates our entire relationship with microbes. We manage them, we utilize them, but at the end of the day, we fundamentally depend on them. There's a great quote from our source material that says, "Imagine what would happen if these microorganisms did not act upon the dead remains. The whole earth would be filled with dead and waste materials. They are the ultimate biological recyclers. Without them constantly breaking down organic matter, life on earth would quite literally grind to a halt under the weight of its own waste." Which leaves me with a final thought to ponder as we wrap up today's explainer. You know, we walk around feeling like the masters of our domain. But if invisible microbes are out there digesting our waste, making our food, fertilizing our crops, and if 37 trillion cells are working nonstop just to hold together the very bodies we live in, well, who's really running the planet? It's this invisible universe working tirelessly right under our noses. I really hope this explainer sparks some curiosity about the incredible microscopic machinery of life. Keep questioning, keep looking closer, and I'll catch you in the next one.